Heart disease is the #1 killer on the planet. It kills more people every single year than cancer, diabetes, and accidents combined. And right now, in kitchens all over the world, people are sitting down to eat foods that are quietly, invisibly, silently destroying the inside of their arteries. Not junk food. Hey there, I'm not fast food. I am talking about foods that are in your grocery store right now. Foods with labels that say low fat, heart healthy, cholesterol free. Foods that your doctor might have even recommended. Cardiologists, heart surgeons who have opened thousands of chests and seen firsthand what a diseased heart looks like, they know which foods are behind this destruction. And today I am going to tell you exactly what they are. I am going to walk you through the top 10 foods that cardiologists, heart researchers, and nutrition scientists have identified as the most dangerous for your cardiovascular system, especially after the age of 50. I am going to explain exactly what each food does inside your arteries and your heart muscle. And I'm going to tell you what to eat instead so you can start protecting yourself today. If you have ever had a heart attack, if heart disease runs in your family, or if you simply want to make sure you never have to find out what a cardiologist's waiting room looks like, this video is for you. And let's begin. Before we get into the foods, I want to give you the context that makes everything else make sense. Because understanding what is happening inside your cardiovascular system after 50 is what makes this list so important. When you are young, in your 20s and 30s, your arteries are flexible, smooth, and elastic. Blood moves through them easily, yet your heart doesn't have to work very hard. And even if you eat poorly for a period of time, your body has a strong recovery capacity. After 53, things have changed significantly. First, your arterial walls have lost some of their youthful elasticity. They are slightly stiffer. Blood pressure tends to rise because the arteries cannot expand and contract as efficiently as they once did. Second, decades of small inflammatory events have been accumulating. Every time you ate a food that triggered inflammation, and we will talk about which ones specifically, your body responded by depositing tiny amounts of plaque inside your arterial walls. This process is called atherosclerosis, and it has been quietly happening since your 30s or 40s in many people. By 50, that plaque buildup is real and measurable. Third, your cholesterol balance shifts. The ratio between LDL cholesterol, the kind that contributes to plaque, and HDL cholesterol, the kind that cleans it up, tends to move in the wrong direction after midlife, particularly without dietary attention. This means that the foods you eat after 50 have a disproportionately larger impact on your heart health than the same foods did at 30. Your recovery margin is narrower. The plaque that forms is building on top of existing plaque. And the consequences arrive faster. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to help you understand that the choices you make at the dinner table today are having a more direct and immediate effect on your heart than they have ever had before. Now, the 10 foods. Let's start with the single most dangerous food for your heart that exists, one that was manufactured in a laboratory and injected into the food supply for decades before the FDA finally moved to ban it. Trans fats, also called partially hydrogenated oils, are created when liquid vegetable oils are pumped with hydrogen gas under high pressure to make them solid at room temperature. The result is a cheap, shelf-stable fat that showed up in margarine, commercial baked goods, fried fast food, crackers, and microwave popcorn for decades. Here is what they do to your heart. Trans fats simultaneously raise LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, and lower HDL cholesterol, the protective kind. They are the only dietary fat that does both simultaneously. The New England Journal of Medicine published research estimating that eliminating trans fats from the food supply could prevent up to 228,000 heart attacks per year in the United States alone. Here is the dangerous catch. The FDA technically required manufacturers to eliminate trans fats, but they are allowed to list 0 grams on the label if there is less than zero point 0.5 grams per serving. So, a food can legally say no trans fats while still containing them. If you see the words partially hydrogenated anywhere in the ingredient list, there are trans fats in that product. Put it back on the shelf. In Sai and Gashard, cardiologists used to focus almost exclusively on fat as the heart disease culprit. Man, the research has shifted significantly. We now know that refined carbohydrates, foods where the fiber and nutrients have been stripped away, are among the most dangerous things you can eat for your cardiovascular system. Here is why. Refined carbohydrates cause rapid blood sugar spikes. Your body responds with a surge of insulin. Over time, repeated insulin surges lead to insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is one of the most powerful drivers of the exact type of heart disease that kills people, the kind that involves high triglycerides, low HDL, and dangerous small dense LDL particles that burrow into arterial walls. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that women who ate the highest amounts of refined carbohydrates had more than double the risk of heart disease compared to women who ate the least. After 50, your insulin sensitivity has already declined. Every refined carbohydrate you eat is hitting a system that is less equipped to handle the resulting blood sugar spike than it was 20 years ago. Liquid sugar is uniquely dangerous for your heart for one specific reason. Your brain does not register it as calories. When you drink 300 calories of soda, your hunger hormones are not suppressed the way they would be if you ate 300 calories of food. You still eat the same amount. The liquid sugar is on top of your normal calorie intake. It goes directly to your liver. Your liver converts the excess fructose, the sugar in soft drinks and fruit juices, into triglycerides, a type of blood fat that is directly linked to heart disease risk. The Harvard School of Public Health tracked over 40,000 men and found that those who drank one sugary beverage per day had a 20% higher risk of heart disease compared to those who rarely drank them. This includes fruit juice, orange juice, apple juice, green juice. Many commercial fruit juices have as much or more sugar than soda without the fiber that makes whole fruit safe. The fiber is gone. What remains is concentrated fructose delivered at a speed that overwhelms your liver. This is the one that shocks people. Breakfast cereals, specifically the processed commercial varieties, are marketed more aggressively as heart healthy than almost any other food category. They have whole grain stamped on the box. They have little heart symbols. They have endorsements from medical associations. And for decades, millions of people have been eating them every morning, genuinely believing they were protecting their hearts. Here is the reality. Most commercial breakfast cereals, including many of the ones marketed as healthy, are among the most refined, highest glycemic foods in existence. They are made from heavily processed grains that have been stripped of fiber, puffed or extruded under extreme pressure, coated with sugar and salt, and fortified with synthetic vitamins to replace the ones that were destroyed in processing. A bowl of many popular cereals has the same glycemic impact on your blood sugar as eating pure sugar. The whole grain mentioned on the label is often present in tiny amounts. In 2021, an independent analysis of 1,200 breakfast products found that the majority marketed as healthy for children and adults were ultra-processed with high sugar content, entirely inconsistent with heart health. Look for cereals with at least 5 grams of fiber per serving, less than 5 grams of sugar per serving, and a short ingredient list made of recognizable whole foods. Or better yet, eat oats, real oats. And they, not the flavored instant variety. Here and that sodium is essential for life, and your body needs it. The problem is not salt at the dinner table. The problem is the enormous amount of hidden sodium in processed and restaurant food. The average American consumes roughly 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. Health guidelines recommend no more than 2,300 milligrams, and for people over 50 with any cardiovascular risk, less than 1,500 milligrams. High sodium intake is the most direct dietary cause of high blood pressure, hypertension, which in turn directly damages the walls of your arteries, forces your heart to pump against greater resistance, and dramatically accelerates the progression of atherosclerosis. Here it says, where is most of the hidden sodium? Canned soups, deli meats, bread, breakfast cereals, condiments, restaurant meals, frozen meals, and cheese. They not the salt shaker. In the processed food supply. See, single can of condensed soup can contain over 800 milligrams of sodium. One slice of certain commercial breads contains 150 milligrams. It adds up to dangerous levels before most people realize what is happening. And yan shang tea fried foods combine multiple heart-damaging mechanisms into a single bite. First, the oil used for commercial frying is almost always a refined seed oil, soybean, canola, or corn, that has been heated to extremely high temperatures repeatedly. When these oils are overheated, they oxidize and form compounds called lipid peroxides and aldehydes. These compounds directly damage the lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, which is the very first step in the formation of arterial plaque. Second, frying dramatically increases caloric density, which drives weight gain, and excess body fat, particularly visceral fat around the abdomen, is an independent risk factor for heart disease. Third, commercially fried foods are very high in sodium, which we just discussed. A large study in the journal Heart found that people who ate fried food 4 or more times per week had a 37% higher risk of heart failure than those who ate it less than once per week. Let me be precise here, because the research is nuanced. Lean, unprocessed red meat in moderate amounts once or twice a week is not the problem. The problems are frequency, fat content, and processing. Fatty cuts of red meat, ribeye steak, lamb chops, pork belly are very high in saturated fat. Saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol in most people. And while the relationship between saturated fat and heart disease is more complex than we once thought, high LDL in the context of inflammation and poor arterial health is still a meaningful risk factor. More significantly, recent research from the Cleveland Clinic has identified a mechanism called TMAO, trimethylamine N oxide. When you eat red meat, bacteria in your gut metabolize its carnitine content into TMAO, and high blood levels of TMAO are strongly associated with increased risk of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death. The recommendation is not to eliminate red meat. It is to limit it to 2 or fewer servings per week, choose lean cuts, and ensure that red meat is part of a broader diet rich in vegetables, fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids. There has been decades of messaging suggesting that moderate red wine consumption is good for your heart. The evidence behind this claim has been significantly challenged in recent years. What we know clearly is this: heavy and regular alcohol consumption, more than 1 drink per day for women, more than 2 for men, directly damages the heart muscle, raises blood pressure, increases triglycerides, and can cause a dangerous condition called alcoholic cardiomyopathy. Way kai en gerster in fe, de car en garde, I ray a Of the heart muscle itself. A major 2022 study published in JAMA Network Open, analyzing data from over 370,000 adults, found that any amount of alcohol consumption was associated with increased cardiovascular disease risk, with risk rising significantly above 2 drinks per week. Again, precision matters here. Small amounts of full-fat dairy, particularly fermented varieties like cheese and yogurt, have not been convincingly linked to heart disease in recent research. The danger is in large quantities, particularly butter and heavy cream, liberally in cooking. These foods are among the highest sources of saturated fat in the Western diet, and when consumed in excess alongside refined carbohydrates, think buttered white toast, cream sauces over pasta, the combination drives up LDL and triglycerides simultaneously. The Mediterranean diet, consistently ranked as the most heart-protective eating pattern in the world, uses olive oil as its primary fat and limits butter and cream significantly. Fat replacement alone is one of the most evidence-backed dietary changes for heart health. This one surprises people because the entire point of artificial sweeteners is to be the safe alternative to sugar. The problem is that recent research, like including a landmark study published in Nature Medicine in 2023, has found that erythritol, one of the most popular artificial sweeteners used in keto and low-calorie products, is associated with a significantly increased risk of heart attack and stroke. The study found that people with high erythritol blood levels were twice as likely to experience a major cardiovascular event. Additionally, older research on sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose has found that they may alter gut microbiome composition in ways that paradoxically increase insulin resistance, the same problem we are trying to avoid. This doesn't mean an occasional diet soda will kill you. It means that large daily consumption of artificial sweeteners as a heart-safe alternative to sugar may be a false trade. Now, let me give you the good news, because your heart is remarkably resilient when you give it what it actually needs. Fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring are the single most evidence-backed food for heart health. They are rich in IPA and DHA omega-3 fatty acids, which reduce triglycerides, lower blood pressure, reduce inflammation, and stabilize heart rhythm. The American Heart Association recommends 2 servings of fatty fish per week as a cornerstone of heart-healthy eating. Extra virgin olive oil is the gold standard cooking fat for your heart. It contains oleocanthal, a natural anti-inflammatory compound, and oleic acid, which has been shown to reduce LDL oxidation. The PREDIME trial, one of the largest cardiovascular nutrition studies ever conducted, found that people on a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil had a 30% lower risk of major cardiovascular events. Leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula, Swiss chard are rich in nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes and widens blood vessels, directly reducing blood pressure and improving circulation. They are also rich in vitamin K, which plays a critical role in preventing arterial calcification. Walnuts and almonds are among the most heart-protective nuts available. Multiple large studies have shown that people who eat a small handful of nuts 4 or more times per week have significantly lower rates of heart disease. Walnuts specifically are one of the best plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids. Oats contain a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan that directly reduces LDL cholesterol by binding to it in your digestive tract and carrying it out of your body before it can be absorbed. Studies show that eating 3 grams of beta-glucan per day, the amount in roughly 1.5 cups of cooked oats, can reduce LDL cholesterol by 5 to 10%. And 3 steps to start protecting your heart this week. Step 1, make the oil swap today. Replace whatever cooking oil you are using with extra virgin olive oil. Buy a good bottle and use it for everything. This single change has more evidence behind it than almost any other dietary modification for heart health. Step 2, read ingredient labels for these 3 words: partially hydrogenated, high fructose corn syrup, and sodium over 600 milligarn per serving. These are your 3 immediate red flags. Here, if a product has any of them, put it down. This takes 30 seconds at the grocery store and will fundamentally change what comes home with you. Step 3, add 1 heart protective food per day, 1 handful of walnuts, 1 serving of oats for breakfast, 1 piece of fatty fish twice a week, 1 tablespoon of olive oil on your salad. You do not need to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Small, consistent additions of protective foods crowd out the harmful ones over time. Your heart has been working for you every second of every day of your entire life without a single break. Helt very shy. It deserves this. I know coming the leading cardiologists in the world are not confused about what causes heart disease. Here, the research is clear. The connection between these specific foods and cardiovascular damage is one of the most replicated findings in all of nutritional science. What has been missing is clear, honest communication about what the science actually says, not filtered through food industry lobbying, not softened by pharmaceutical interests, not buried in medical jargon. Yame, you now have that information. What you do with it is entirely your choice. If this video gave you something valuable, share it. Send it to someone you love. Cardiovascular disease is preventable in the majority of cases, but only if people have access to this information in time. Subscribe for a new science-backed video every week. And leave a comment below. Tell me which of these 10 foods surprised you most. I read every single comment. Take care of your heart. It is the only one you have, and there's shot and gay conversion dish to break.